I'd like to let you know I have a new book out, the first book I've published in 5 years. It's called They Came for Blood. I have always wanted to write Westerns, a dream since my childhood. Tom Callahan was once president, Ulysses S. Grant's deadliest kept secret, a lethal gun for hire leading a team of assassins nobody knew existed. Now those days are over, or so he thought. Therefore, when the past comes for blood, you either draw first or die trying. Look for They Came for Blood on Amazon.com or anywhere books are sold. Check it out. There's a lot of murder in the book, so it's not a departure from my day job. A family of 5 heads out for a drive one afternoon, and despite several sightings, nobody ever sees them again. Then, nearly 70 years later, an answer, and it's not what you'd ever expect. My name is M. William Phelps. I'm an investigative journalist and the New York Times best-selling author of close to 50 books. I've dedicated the past 26 years of my life to helping families of the missing and murdered. Join me next for this Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps shortcut. There was a time when families piled into the station wagon and went everywhere together. Vacations, Sunday dinners, holiday trips, or just a drive in the country. Dad drove, Mom rode shotgun, and the kids fought and screamed at each other in the back. No seatbelts. Dad fogged up the inside of the vehicle with his Camels. Mom did her makeup in the pull-down sun visor. Sounds like a movie from the 50s or 60s, I realize, but it was real life for a lot of kids from that era. The Martin family from Northeast Portland, Oregon, traveled together in a 1954 Ford Country Squire. This is the classic family station wagon. Wood-paneled sides, the front end the size of a tank, luggage rack on the roof, and glass all the way around the vehicle like an aquarium. A family of 4 or 5 was comfortable bouncing down the road in this hefty vehicle. On the evening of December 6th, 1958, Kenneth and Barbara Martin head out to a Christmas party alone, leaving their kids behind. Think lots of whiskey sours and Lucky Strikes, grab bag, eggnog, fedoras, long black dad coats with the big bat wing collars. Before they leave, the Martins promise the kids, daughters Barbie, Susan, and Virginia, that they would take a drive together the following day, December 7th. The plan is to drive out to the Columbia River Gorge and go foraging for pine branches so the family can make Christmas decorations, a few wreaths, and some garland. What could be more family-oriented in 1950s than a family of 5 heading out during the Christmas season together in a station wagon? I think of that movie, A Christmas Story. On that afternoon, December 7th, as the Martins drive down their street, Northeast 56th in downtown Portland, 2 neighborhood girls see them and wave after Kenneth honks the horn. Everyone is cheery and excited for the trip. The Martins are that family in the neighborhood, the people everybody knows and loves. The gorge from the Martins' home in Portland is about 22 miles. It's a hell of a scenic drive. I've done it myself. There is just so much to see everywhere you look. About 20 miles past the gorge, still heading east, is Cascade Locks, another beautiful area, and the Martins decide to carry on, which puts them about 40 miles east of their Portland home now. Near 4 p.m. on December 7th, a fuel service station owner in the Cascade Locks area reports that the Martins stop in and fuel up. When they are done, he says, the car pulls out of the fuel station and continues eastbound. They travel another 20 miles east into Hood River, now 60 miles from their home, and they make another stop, this time at the Paradise Snack Bar. A waitress there recalls talking to and serving the Martin family. I guess 5 people traveling together? Not hard to forget. By now it's after 6 p.m. And this is the last time anybody sees the Martin family. They vanish, as if they had kept driving east and made their way out of Oregon and into the unknown. Poof, gone. Neighbors call Kenneth the Santa Claus of Candy Lane because he always dons a Santa suit for Christmas. He would wear it and stand out in front of the house, wave to people. It was a tradition. The Martin kids are 14-year-old Barbie, 12-year-old Virginia, and 10-year-old Sue. The 3 girls are well known in the neighborhood and at school, and everyone adores them. The Martins are, in every sense of the word, the classic American family from the 50s. I think you get that picture by now. As Sunday, December 8th comes to pass, the Martins are still not back from their family foraging trip. But there is no one there to notice they are in fact missing. After all, they are all together. And the oldest child, a boy, 28-year-old Don, a Navy veteran, is away and studying at Columbia University in New York. But then Monday rolls around, and Kenneth doesn't show up for work, and Barbara is missing from her job at Grant High School. To make matters even more suspicious, the kids as well are all reported absent. Kenneth's boss does some checking and finds all of this out and decides to report the family missing. By 11 p.m., the police are at the Martin home looking around to see if anything seems out of place. A home invasion, kidnapping, maybe the dad snapped. Whatever the case may be. The house is undisturbed. It's as if they were home one minute, left the next, and never returned. Police check the family bank accounts and find out that the Martins still had what is described as, quote, a substantial amount of money in their bank. There's been no activity in any of the accounts. Now the police have a mystery on their hands. 3 full days and a local family of 5 is nowhere to be found. Something had to have happened. That same week, investigators and top brass from 5 area counties meet at the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office to devise a plan to begin a broader search. This as reports are building and the community is beginning to stir. What is going on here? Rivers, gorges, woods, highways, and byways will be the focus. Get out the helicopters and the small engine planes and begin covering the area from the Martin home to the gorge and those points further east the Martins were confirmed to have stopped at. I ran across a map of this search area during my research, and the total area is massive. From Mount Hood to the Hood River to Crown Point and down to Sandy and Larch Mountain. Rivers and streams, which they could mostly see down into, the water was so clear. But they find nothing. Neighbors back in the Portland community where the Martins live, the local paper reports, are morose and tense. Everyone's upset. Everyone wants answers. Nobody can imagine what might have happened. Neighbors begin recalling stories about the family. One is that during the holidays, Kenneth would make these large candy canes and hand them out to everyone. Neighbors would place them on their porches. In remembrance of the family, that Santa suit Kenneth wore is placed on the Martin family porch under a sign that reads, Martin Manor. At the beginning of that same week, as they are searching, investigators come across a 1951 Chevy abandoned near Cascade Locks. It's not the Martin vehicle for certain, but they become interested in the car because it had been registered in Venice, California. Then, near the vehicle, they recover a .38 Colt Commander handgun hidden in the bushes. When they get that gun back to the lab, they realize it's covered in dried blood. Let's take our only break of the episode and come back to conclude this Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps shortcut. It's always interesting to me when certain things turn up during an investigation and they appear so promising, you are more than convinced there is a connection to the case at hand. I've been in this situation myself, where a set of circumstances or a cache of evidence seems so compelling, you have the case solved in your head. But then you look closer and get the facts behind the evidence, and poof, all of that hope turns to dust. I mentioned a bloody weapon found before the break. Turns out the Martins' oldest boy had been accused of stealing a bunch of sporting goods from a local Meyer and Frank store 2 years prior to his family's disappearance. Among the items were guns. And wouldn't you know, the serial number on the bloodied weapon found next to that vehicle at Cascade Locks traces back to those stolen items. So you would be negligent, really, if you didn't think there might be a connection there. Not only that, but on December 8th, 2 ex-convicts were arrested for stealing a car in Hood River County. And it turns out to be that Chevy found in Cascade Locks. Then the convicts are identified as having been at the same restaurant the Martins had stopped at. And they left at the same time the Martins did, a restaurant employee tells police. You put all of that together, and you have to think that these convicts, or the son, are involved in some way. All of this cannot be a coincidence. Well, sure it can. Because the boy is in New York, so that theory is quashed immediately. And the convicts were in custody on December 8th. So that theory is blasted as well. Now it's back to square one. As the month continues, the sheriff's office begins to receive all sorts of tips, or let's call them absurd theories. A tip I put in the category of something that has the potential to pan out. Here, what we have are people calling in all sorts of zany speculations. One guy says he saw a man in his orchard picking greenery, pine branches, in an area that is an indigenous burial ground. The following week, he says, I saw a flock of buzzards flying in this same direction. They search the area and find nothing. Another person finds a female glove near the area where that car was abandoned, and it looks to be similar to what Barbara was said to have worn. Echoes of the Nancy Guthrie case, maybe, here? Another favorite of mine is from a family in Iowa. They send a letter to the sheriff saying they saw the Martins, whose picture has been all over the newspapers across the country. Not to mention 6,000 flyers had been sent all over the place. That sighting is said to have taken place in Burlington, Iowa. Then a truck driver says he saw the Martins in Billings, Montana. Within all of that, sifting through the muck, police get what seems to be the first big break. In February 1959, a volunteer searcher finds a set of tire tracks near Mount Hood. They lead to a cliff and seem to go off the edge of the cliff. The tire tracks matched the tires on the Martins Ford station wagon. The FBI is called in. They find paint chips in the same area and determine it's the same paint used in the model and year of the Martins Ford. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers agrees to lower the river on the other side of the cliff, working under the theory that the Martins drove off the cliff, plunged into the river, and they all drowned. They searched the river and the lake the river runs into with sonar. Hope is elevated immensely. There's momentum for the first time. But they find nothing. 3 months later, however, a drilling company is out in the same river, moving a large rig through the water and preparing to drill. As they are trudging through the running water, the rig hooks onto something and gets hung up. After working at it, they free the rig from the hang-up. And I want you to remember this fact, please. The next morning, a man and his wife are out fishing near that Cascade Locks area where the Martins were headed. As they walk down towards the water's edge, they see something in the water. They move in and take a closer look. 2 bodies float by them as they stand on the bank of the river. The next day, along the banks of that same Columbia River, someone is out walking in nature and discovers Susan's body. Then Virginia's body is found the day after, further down the river near the Bonneville Dam. Word gets out that the bodies of 2 of the Martin sisters have been found. Rumors swirl that the bodies had bullet holes in them. The medical examiner quickly tamps that talk down, ruling it out completely, saying it's simply untrue. In fact, he says, the 2 girls died from drowning. The sheriff theorizes that the drilling company, as they were working their rig across the river, had somehow locked their rig onto the Martin vehicle and freed those bodies from the car, and they floated downstream from there. Seems plausible for sure. So 2 of the girls are found, Susan and Virginia, but Barbie and the Martin parents are still missing. So they begin a search where the drill rig got hung up, but they find nothing. After a time, the search for the Martins and Barbie come to an end. Speculation runs rampant, as it always does in these types of cases. Decades pass. Decades. Now it's 2024, almost 70 years after the family went missing. A local diver working on his own, who had been investigating the disappearances himself for quite a while, finds the Martin vehicle in the Columbia River, close to Cascade Locks. The car had been buried by soot, silt, and wedged down under a large boulder. By August 2025, after a long period of going down and bringing up pieces of the vehicle, it is announced that Barbie, Kenneth, and Barbara Martin's bodies have been located, along with identification from Kenneth found in the vehicle. By April 2026, the Oregon State Medical Examiner's Office confirms the remains are the remaining Martin family members. They had used Othram, that very familiar lab these days everyone is using, to test the DNA and obtain the confirmation. The Hood River County Sheriff's Department closes the case, citing that there's no evidence of any crime, no foul play involved, and that it's likely the Martins lost track of where they were, or they got stuck, and the dad unintentionally drove the family station wagon off the cliff and into the river. And I just want to quote here at the end from the sheriff. I think they turned around in such a way that they kind of got stuck against a curb, put the car in reverse, and it wouldn't move. And then all of a sudden, jolted, and it went backwards in an uncontrollable way into the water. Again, Seems like a plausible explanation. This story goes to show you that things are not what they seem sometimes. It's a sad ending to a very sad story. That's it for this Crossing the Line with M. William Phelps shortcut. Be safe, be aware, be alert. Sources for this episode: Hunt Vane for Family, Planes Fly, The Oregonian, December 13th, 1958. Remains of 3 Martin family members identified 67 years after disappearance. KATU News, April 16th, 2026. Body identified as being member of missing family. St. Louis Post-Dispatch, May 4th, 1959. Crossing the Line is executive produced by M. William Phelps, LLC, and Matthew Valentinus, Mom's Basement Management. Written by me, M. William Phelps. Audio mastering and mixing by Matt Russell. Music by Epidemic Sound. Original music written and performed by Thomas Mooney, Tom Phelps, and Matt Russell.